Yeah. All right. Welcome to Gab and Jam, episode 317.
And what are we talking about today?
All right. So today I ran across this article that was talking about how introverts, how it can be an advantage for sales and marketing. So for our episode is 4 ways being an introvert can be an advantage as a DIY rock star. And the reason why it resonated with me is because we have for years felt like us being an introvert might have hampered, some of our networking and sales and some of the things that you need to do, going out socializing.
And what do you mean by it? Kind of, flesh out what you mean by an introvert.
Well, a lot of times artists like to be alone, like to be inward. I'm not a person to walk up to people at a party.
Okay.
And introduce myself, or to, just not that type of person. Not the person to grab the mic and run up and start singing. You know what I'm saying? Even as, I know friends of ours who are more like, okay, chance to perform, hey, I'm going to jump up.
Yeah.
And that has never been me. And I always felt like that could be something that could hinder, people knowing what you do. People giving you an opportunity to do that, and then of course for sales and marketing, because as a DIY rock star, the more we learn that we have to be our own best advocates. Yeah. So sales and marketing is kind of the core of right. So when I saw this, it was nice to see that there are things that are advantages about which some of them you'll see that we've discovered on our own, but it was nice to see that someone else saw that as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right. So for the first way that being an introvert can be an advantage for the DIY rock star is that an introvert may be less pushy and more patient. So what that means is you're thinking about the long haul and developing a relationship with people.
Okay.
Before you, ask for the sale or, whereas people who are extroverts, they might come out right away. Yeah. Hey, I'm Jim, and and our band is #1, and it's the best. And it's like, sometimes it's nice to kind of warm people up slowly into what you're doing, and then say, you know what, if there are opportunities, we'd love to be considered.
Yeah. Well, I think the probably the biggest impediment, and that's probably whether you're introvert or extrovert, would always be rejection.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of deal with that aspect of it, and so, that's probably why people feel like, extroverts would be, I guess, better at this because just the law of averages. Yeah. If they are out there getting more opportunities, then they're going to probably find more acceptance than rejection. Yeah. Than if you're introverted, you might do 2 or 3 and you might get discouraged because you get the rejection from that, so you might tend to kind of pull back to what you normally do.
And then also the unique thing for DIY rockstar, for musicians, artists, is that it is your heart, it's your art that's on the line. It's not just a widget. You're not just selling a vacuum cleaner. Yeah. So that even makes it even more complicated.
And then that also may even reflect more on, and this is not to necessarily not extroverts, but I'm saying that extroverts will probably be a part of a community.
Okay.
And a community that is kind of coalesced around maybe a certain style of music, kind of way of doing music, and they may be more communal in the way that they're doing music anyway, so that then the aspect of promotion of that type of music might not just fall on their shoulders.
That's true.
So it might fall within the whole community. And then not only that, they would get feedback. From their community. And then, it's always great when you kind of walk someplace feeling like you have a community behind you.
Yeah, that's what even the bands have started to do over the years. You guys probably already know this, but when clubs would not book certain bands because they weren't well known enough and they thought couldn't draw enough, bands would get together. Yeah. All the different rejected bands would get together and book their own hall. Yes. And then that way they built up a following. Right. But doing that as a community, like you said, joining together. All of the people who are left behind. Yeah. Kind of get together and make your own community.
And that's kind of like, it's like Dave Grohl as far as being able to become the drummer for Nirvana. So it wasn't like he kind of came up with those guys, but it's like when they lost their drummer, I mean, they already had their Sub Pop deal.
Okay.
So he kind of came in with Nevermind.
Oh.
And so, but he was in that scene.
Okay.
He was in that punk rock scene,
Yeah.
so he was more available
right.
to that opportunity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's kind of where, and maybe even an introvert, to the extent that you do plug into those, because we noticed that with the house community, that there were all types within that community.
Yeah.
Everybody that was, like, you know, I would say, like, The Wiz, Jeff Mills.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily see him as an extrovert.
No.
See him very introverted.
Yeah.
But he was an active part of this scene, and actually probably one of the creators of the scene. And I think even like, you know, Mad Mike Banks, same thing. You know, I didn't see them as being extrovert type people, but you know, they kind of found their way within the scene. And not only that them being introverted became the image,
right?
With
With the no image, right.
You know,
nothing but the you are the actual letters. So no visual representation.
Right.
So So the second way that being an introvert may be helpful, maybe an advantage for the DIY rockstar, is that we may be more thoughtful. So thinking through the options before we make a move versus someone who is quick to respond, quick to react to an opportunity, you know, whereas for us, we may think through, okay, I see there's an opportunity. What other opportunities exist, and think through. Yeah. I know you're a plan A, plan B, plan C type person, and not just, okay, well, all we got is this one plan. Let's go charge forth.
It depends. Sometimes I can be impulsive. So, you know, if I feel like something's telling me.
Yeah.
You know, so if you got your inner voice that's telling you to do something, then, you know, whereas other things, I think, you know, more practical things, I think I probably tend to be more, like you say, plan A.
Yeah, you always have, I always hear that you have many options. You've thought about, okay, if it's successful, this is how it could go. Right. Or if it, you know, turns sideways, this is a possible thing that we could try or do.
But I think, like, with our first single, like Red Hot, that was kind of an impulse thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was like, oh, this thing felt good in the moment.
It did,
And it's like, okay, let's do this. And we went and pressed it up. We did all the rest of that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, I was like having buyer's remorse about it, you know, because now I'm thinking practically.
Right. That we probably should follow the lead that our consultants that we had called in, the UR group.
Right.
This was back in 91. So.
Yeah. And or, you know, just kind of getting reviews from people that we knew. And it was like, oh, my goodness, this thing is just going to completely take on water and just sink. You know? And so it's going to be a waste.
Yeah.
And, you know, so who knew?
So maybe sometimes it's good when you don't. So that's when you don't overthink it.
Yeah. I mean, because there's certain times I know with art, sometimes you have to listen to that voice. Yeah. That's telling you, do this.
Yeah.
You know, and so even though it may seem a bit unreasonable, you might end up going ahead with that voice. And, you know, if you analyze what you did, you might not be able to kind of line it up logically as to what you should have done. Yeah,
because you need confidence to be able to sell. Again, I think that's one thing that as an introvert, the thing that I found is that, you had said it before, that if you need to fix something, fix it. You know, like whether it's notes or a lyric or whatever it is, or mix, because now I need to stand firm when I am trying to pitch it, when I'm selling it, when I'm, you know, playlist people, I'm writing the copy for the press release and doing all these things. I need to stand firm. I can't be, you know, no matter what the feedback is.
Yeah.
I can't be the one to say, oh, I guess you're right. I guess, you know, that, you know, no, I have to be the one to say, okay, well, you don't get it. That's fine. Let me move on to the next person.
Yeah, but I think that's the part that could be harder for introverts. Again, it's probably easier for someone who is extroverted, who might be coming from a community, where at least you can get that, oh, man, this stuff is great.
Right.
And I don't know what's wrong with them.
Right. Yeah.
You know, whereas when you're kind of standing alone, it might be harder to feel that way, you know, because then you start feeling like, okay, something must be off with me.
Right.
Because nobody else is feeling the way that I do.
Feeling,
You know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so again.
Yeah.
All right. The next way that being an introvert can be an advantage as a DIY rock star is that you may be more understanding of others and their concerns, which means you might actually listen and then be able to respond with something that is actually going to create that connection between you and that person.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that might be, one of the things that people kind of connect to with us is that empathy. I think, especially now with this new Obtanium Flow, with some of the playlist curators on Groover, it seems like there's this connection, and part of it is the message. We're hearing some feedback about the positive message and that kind of thing. But I think it's because the empathy they're hearing. It's going to be all right. Find more joy. Just all of that.
Yeah.
That might be something that people who on the outside connect with that message of empathy that we're giving out.
Yeah.
But that instead of, barreling forward, I guess you always say that where people are usually waiting to speak before they even listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're waiting for their turn to speak.
Yeah.
Instead of actually
Most people
listening.
don't listen. Yeah, they don't. And that might be something that extroverts probably suffer from more than introverts. Mm-hmm. Is that, and again, I'm not saying this is with all extroverts.
Right, yeah.
But that, you're always kind of talking to their personal representative, so meaning that this person that they've created, persona that they've created.
Yeah.
And it's a persona that they've been successful with.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's always there. And it's always on the surface. Mm-hmm. And so you never quite get to, what's really making that person tick. Mm-hmm. And so that means that a lot of times they might not make real connections, kind of going to your point, that the connection that they make might be very superficial, which means that the music might need to be, I guess, more in line with what's happening at the time, in order for them to sell it. Whereas with the introvert, you might be doing something that's a little bit off the beaten path, but because they can talk to you and they can actually get you, that sometimes honesty, even though it might be a bit clunky, it might be, and all the rest of this type of stuff, might not be as smooth as something else, could make it where you actually establish something where you actually build a relationship. So the extrovert may be able to, at least from the outset, it's like the tortoise and the hare, right? They might be able to sell like more starting out, but you over a period of time might actually catch that person and move past.
That is
because of that.
One of the next points. Okay, so the last way, and this ties into what you just said, that being an introvert may be an advantage to DIY Rockstar is that introverts may communicate more effectively through email as far as choosing words, that communicate a little bit better. And then over time, again, that was during right before the pandemic was something that I noticed that if I started responding to people's emails that I wanted to be, have a conversation with, that we actually started creating a friendship through email that I would have never walked up to them at, anything and shaking their hands. And so now over these years, we've developed these mutual, like this peer group, like you were talking about building community. But it's happened through something that's really small, but using words versus, that energy to get up. We're just not those people. We've gone to conferences, and unless people walk up to us, that's, we're approachable and friendly and whatever else, but we're not the people to go up to folks and say, hey, here's my card, stuff.
And I think for me, some of it kind of comes out of, especially sometimes in conferences, is that you hate to be in that pile of stuff that this person collected because they were talking someplace, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to throw these all in the bag and I'll get to them, like when,
right?
You know what I mean? And so to kind of put yourself in that same bag, or it's like, like we sat down and we talked to people at South by Southwest and they gave us their card and say, hey, you could email me here. And, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, this email address is where you're going to get these things from the
Right.
South by Southwest
Or
people
some
that
of
you
them
got.
have already, what do they call it, blocklisted,
Yeah.
where they've kind of unsubscribed. Because I went ahead and put them on an email list.
Yeah.
I took them at their word.
Yeah.
And some of them, the first email, it had already blocklisted.
Right.
So.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you kind of take it with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
because a lot of times people are not going to say things that's harsh to you and things
to
like
your
that.
face,
You're just
yeah.
not going to get that.
Yeah.
And so, and just because of the environment in which you are actually talking to these people, that, you just feel like, okay, I know I'm not going to get the real.
Yeah.
And so kind of understanding that part of it, because I don't even think they're there thinking I'm going to get something that's going to blow my socks off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I don't even know if they're looking
Yeah.
for something to blow their socks off. Because they might be at a point too, even if something does blow their socks off, that don't mean they believe in it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a different situation.
Or that they believe it could be successful, because
Right.
again, you can love it, but if you know the people that you're going to take it to,
Right. That's my point. Is that
Yeah.
just because it blows my socks off, that might be the thing that tells me, okay, I shouldn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
My career's built on kind
Right.
of getting things that I don't necessarily care much for, but I kind of know it works for the market.
Yeah.
So I mean, whatever the instance may be, it's just that I always see that as like a lotto type thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily take it that seriously.
Yeah.
As much as you just kind of like to at least have the discussions with these people to just kind of even understand who are the people who are actually listening to your stuff.
Yeah.
And then ask yourself, okay, so does this seem like a person that I can hang out with? Does this seem like a person that would like what I do?
Yeah.
Does this seem like a person that I could work with?
Yeah, that has some vision too.
And I'm saying that, and I think in a lot of instances, the answer for me was no. Yeah. And it's not a knock against them.
And that, like you said, that actually, I guess it helped reframe some of the ways that we were spending our time and energy.
Right.
Because again, if we're sending it to people like that probably is not going to get the best result for us. Whereas, again, we have been loving Groover. No, we're not getting any affiliate money or anything, not a sponsored post or anything, but we've been loving connecting with curators and blog people and radio stations all over the world through Groover. And it seems like it's more of a genuine thing that they're listening and actually enjoying what they're hearing.
Right. And that's really, at the end of the day, that's kind of what you want. And so to the extent, if something organically happens, where somebody reaches out or whatever else, definitely open to that. But, it's kind of tough to meet them in that set of circumstances. Unless you've got something that's popping already.
Right.
And you pretty much are looking for an investor. And you got something that's really popping that you could say, hey, I got this happening. Either you could jump in on the ground floor, or, hey, I'll go to somebody else who's got some vision who'll know, because I got this thing, and this train is moving with or without it. And that's a whole different, mindset to go there with. But if you go in there saying, hey, I need you to get me started.
Right.
Well,
and that's why this email thing had worked, because also these are peers. You never reached out to Nile Rodgers or whatever and sent him an email. But people who were sending out emails talking about some of the similar things.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm curious. Let me try to respond to them. Respond to what they're saying in their email. And then we, over the years, have developed relationships with these people. And I just don't think it would have happened any other way. Using words is easy for me.
I think about something, our nephew Marlon, he does videos like for raps, and he's based out of Indiana. Marlon Nesto. So Marlon posted something on Facebook yesterday that basically said, hey, if you're looking to make it in the music industry, he said, I pray for you if you're looking to make it in the music industry without a budget. So as if to say, if you don't have any money to get things going, forget it. And that's kind of the same thing here, is that, at the end of the day, introvert, extrovert, whatever, is that you have to use your skills. You got to be willing to invest in yourself. you know, before anybody else is going to be willing to jump on your train.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have to take the skills that you have. So whether you're introverted or extroverted, you know, you got to utilize those skills to the hilt to help you get to where you need to get to.
Yeah, because there's no other way around it. But
right.
it did feel a little comforting to see some of the process that we've actually, you know, put in place.
Right.
Actually is something that she recognized as, you know, as part of your superpower.
Right, because there's more than one way to do this.
Yeah.
There's more than one way to make this thing happen.
I'm happy about that.
So, right, and that's, you know, that's always the case because, you know, you look at successful people throughout history, I mean, the common thing that they usually have is like hard work, normally have a vision, but as far as their personalities go, and they're all over the place. So.
And a lot of times, it's not a great place.
Right.
You know, once you see behind the curtain, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, but we want to keep our kindness as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you guys think? What do you think? First of all, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? We're curious to hear. Are there some other things that maybe are helpful in the DIY rockstar journey about being either an introvert or extrovert, since we talked about both?
Yeah.
Leave it in the comments below. And what else?
And what? Obtanium Flow is available, streaming the whole thing. So the whole album's out. So I don't know. Do we got any live streams coming up?
Yes, January 12th,
okay.
7 p.m. Friday. We are going to premiere the Daylight video.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorite songs. Like forever.
Yeah.
I know you get tired of playing it every morning, but we listen to it every morning because it's kind of my go-to, get me going, you know, rock the day type of song. So yeah, we'll be doing the live stream for that. If you dig the vibe and you want to be a part of the tribe, be sure to
subscribe.
We're wishing you love, peace, and
chicken grease.